So now I want to talk about tax planning. Again, we briefly touched on this before, that Keith and Sherry, in terms of tax filing, you're not the most organized. And that's okay, right? That's why you hire professionals to take care of those responsibilities. Married filing jointly using the standard deduction of $12,700 is not your best option. Again, you need to look at what allows you to itemize your deductions. And because you have a home and you have a mortgage on that home, which ultimately incurs an interest expense, you're able to itemize your deductions. Now, there's many categories that you can itemize your deductions with, right? So the first big item you need to look at is your interest expense for calendar year 2016. Now, in order to do that, I don't have the number that you provided me, but I calculated it myself. So what I did is I figured out what your mortgage payment is today, and then I did an amortization schedule to look at what your total interest expense has been over the calendar year 2016. And that number you can see in your hard copy financial plan comes out to $9,196.75. So right there, you're able to itemize that amount. And then when I look at your cash outflows for the year, I notice that you are charitably inclined. You had a $4,000 cash contribution to your church. Well, guess what? You can itemize that as well. So those two numbers right there put you over what you're using for the standard deduction each year, ultimately lowering your taxable income. Not only that, but then you have your property taxes of, I believe the amount's $2,657. So in total, those numbers are going to lower your taxable income versus the $12,700 standard deduction. But it's also important to realize that the itemizing your deduction also allows you to stay organized. And you've mentioned to me several times that you're not the best at record keeping. Well, it's important when you're dealing with Uncle Sam that you have a good record keeping system. And I think you should really start to itemize your deductions. You'll benefit from a taxable income standpoint, a tax standpoint, and also for a peace of mind standpoint, staying organized. The next big item on the list, I don't think I mentioned it in our overview, but Keith, you were approached to do a 1031 exchange, right, with Tom, your neighbor over at Uncle Jay's. And ultimately you had another choice, right? You had another choice to just sell the property basically for what it's worth today, $84,000. And I did an analysis on what you should be doing with that opportunity and your rental property in itself. So what I did is there's a 1031 calculation. Once we adjusted the basis of Aunt Betty, that basis came to $31,692, and I'll show you here in your handout. And the sale of the rental property, right? You have a fair market value of $84,000. Again, the basis $31,692. A total gain off of that amount $52,308 times your tax rate would produce taxes of about little over $13,077 to be exact. So you're going to have proceeds after the sale of $39,231. Okay, now if you were to do a 1031 exchange, you wouldn't have a recognized gain because of the small mortgage that you're going to take on, right, of $16,000. So your options really, do you sell the property and realize a small gain now and use the proceeds for shorter term goals such as education or retirement savings, or do you take a risk? Do you double Uncle Jay's in size? Do you have the capacity to do that? Not only that, from what you've stated, you would have to incur a cost of $75,000 for an additional investment just to renovate the other building to make it workable. Okay, and it's not only the $75,000 expense, that has me concerned. It's also the small mortgage that you'd be taking on at $16,000. I don't think at this time you need to take on that debt or go forward with that additional investment. I think at this time it's extremely important for you to clean up your balance sheet, maybe use some of those proceeds again for short-term goal or longer-term goals. I'm sorry, such as education or retirement saving. Again, I'm going to refer to the financial plan hard copy that I'm giving you to look at the numbers. But my rationale is that unless you're feeling like doubling in size long term, you're going to be able to have the attendance and hire the staff needed for Uncle Jay's and have the capital to do so. I don't see it being the best option today for you. Again, if this opportunity presents itself down the road, I told you that we're going to monitor your recommendations, and at that time we'll take another look at your financial picture, and maybe at that time it makes sense. But right now I think it's important to prioritize, clean up your balance sheet, putting your kids' education first, and start saving more towards retirement, because that $3.9 million number I gave you at the beginning of this financial plan, that's a lot of money, and you're going to have to save